So if you're a marketer, let me ask, how confident are you that your content actually connects in every market? If you're guessing, it might be time to check out Phrase. Phrase is the industry-leading AI localization platform that helps you deliver content in multiple languages without losing your tone, your message, or your mind. It automates the manual work, slashes review time, and gives you real data on what's working where. Brands like Uber and Zendesk trust Phrase to scale their content across the globe and get it right every time. If you're serious about reaching more people and driving better results internationally, head over to phrase.com/MPN and take a look. That's phrase.com/MPN.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Coming up on this episode of the Entrepreneurial You.
AI is here to stay, and it's only getting better. Like, today is the worst day of AI, right? Tomorrow will continue to improve. The more clear we are as leaders, the more clarity we can bring into our teams, and then we can really push and deliver much higher value for our customers.
Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's the Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
All right, what do you know? It is another time for another episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. And you know, I am your host, Heneka Watkis-Porter. But if you are new here, then you learned that for the first time. And today we are going to be looking on technology leadership. And my guest is Brian Childress, an accomplished technologist and thought leader in application security developer efficiency and software best practices. He has mentored several software engineers and has spoken internationally on topics ranging from application access control to improving workflows across the software development life cycle. So if you're really curious about how to lead effectively in the tech space, or even how to build secure, efficient systems, this episode is absolutely for you. All right, so pull up a chair, and let's do this. Welcome, Brian. Welcome.
Heneka, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. So let me just emphasize again for listeners, today we're looking at mastering technology leadership from security to efficiency. And this is against the backdrop that in today's fast-paced digital world, and we know that is very fast-paced, technology leaders must be able to balance innovation with security and efficiency. And of course, my guest expertise really lies in helping teams adopt best practices that not only protect their systems, but also streamline their operations. So let's get ready to explore how leaders can create secure environments while fostering creativity and productivity. And of course, we know it's a very delicate balance, trying to, intricate dance, trying to have that balance. So here's my icebreaker question for you, Brian, as you come and get dived into what we're about to talk about today. What's one piece of outdated tech advice you wish people would stop following?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I wish folks would stop following is that it has to be perfect before it's actually launched. I think a lot of folks are limited by having something completely perfect before they actually get it out into the market, and they don't benefit from customer feedback and being able to iterate and improve.
Right. To go through that feedback, just, putting out that product, going through that feedback and iteration loop. Yeah, totally get it. Thanks for sharing. All right. So let's talk about, to set the framework for a conversation, talking about mastering technology leadership. When we talk about technology, a lot of persons, we sometimes, in this day and age, in the 21st century here, right now in 2025, many people think technology and all that comes to mind right now is the very hot topic of AI. When we talk about technology, what are we talking about, Brian?
It's everything. AI is certainly at the forefront of it, but it's anything that we interact with day in and day out, both in our work and in our personal lives. The smartwatches that we wear on our wrists, the smartphones we carry in our pockets, all of the systems that we use, the things that we log into, all of that is the technology. And within each one of those areas, there's a lot of opportunity to not only improve and make more efficient, but there's also a potential security risk as well. And those are areas that we really have to be careful about balancing.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so let's move into, I have a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to this show. Many of them are beginners, and many of them have been, entrepreneurs for a number of years. Now, let's talk about some of those challenges. The biggest challenge, and particularly startups, the SMEs really face when it comes to application and, technology, well, apps, developing apps and security for those apps.
Yeah, I think, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of startup founders and, solo founders out there that are building companies, building software. And one of the biggest areas that I see challenges with is hiring qualified people to actually build the software for them. Budgets may be tight. They may not have clarity on what it is that they're building. And so we end up spending a lot of money going in the wrong direction, or we spend, a lot of time and resources just building something that's way more complex than we actually need. And unfortunately, that is a business risk that we have to mitigate. And it's not just something that's technology risk.
Right. So for someone who wants to, like, for example, let me give you a real life scenario. So I operate a social enterprise that's called Grace to Grow. And it's really about mentoring women over a 12-week period, over, looking at different issues, leadership, entrepreneurship, etc. Now, what we want to do is to develop an app so that there can be a 24-hour on-call coaching, counseling, mentorship, whatever it is that the participant needs at any given time. What are some of the things that I would need to think about, not necessarily only in terms of security, but in terms of getting that app off the ground? What are some of the cost considerations? What are some of just the technical aspect that I need to be aware of and may need to say, oh, maybe I don't need an app. Maybe this is another solution that I need.
Yeah, I think the very first thing that I encourage everyone that I work with is let's start to validate. Is there a need for this out in the market? Is it something that I feel the pain of personally? Or are there other people kind of outside of my immediate circle that are also feeling that pain and could really benefit from this app or this software that I'm looking to build? And really looking for folks that aren't just going to say, yeah, I think that's a great idea, but say, I have that, challenge, and it's so intense that I'm willing to pay you money before it's even built. It's at that point we've been able to validate the idea, and then we know it's worth starting to build. And then I always encourage folks to start as simple as possible. Don't assume that you're going to have millions of users from day one. As much as we hope, it doesn't actually happen. And so we don't need to build something so complex and so, well orchestrated. We just need something that starts to solve that problem. And, a few years ago, I would have suggested just a simple Google form and a Google spreadsheet. Now a lot of the AI tools are really fantastic to build some of these apps on your own. Even if you don't have a deep technical background, you can build something that starts to validate the idea with your customers, get it in front of them, and then start to receive that feedback, because that feedback is the most important piece. It's not the technology you choose or how many users it can support at one time. Does this actually solve a problem for my customers?
Mm-hmm. And you hit a point right there, Brian. You're talking about, AI technology that can actually help to build apps. So, for example, I just learned of Replits recently.
Replit, yeah.
Yes, and I wonder about how strong of an app, by strong I mean, able to withstand the security test of time, able to execute on what it is that the user would want to have done. I mean, let's talk about apps that are built by AI. How reliable are those apps?
This is one of those, if you talk to 10 people, you'll get 11 different opinions. I think that from what I'm seeing, and I'm playing with these tools every single day for different customers in my own business. And for me, I think the capability that these apps have is just it's mind-boggling. It really is. Some of the things that I'm able to build on these platforms would take, myself as someone with 2 decades of experience building software, it would take me weeks or months to put together, and I can do it in, a couple hours sitting on the couch, which is really pretty amazing. I think one of the challenges is some of these platforms aren't necessarily built with security in mind. And so while we can build something quickly, we can validate the idea, we also need to have somebody come in and really review the code that's actually generated. Because it's not like, because a machine generated it, it's perfect. It's like a junior engineer generated it and created it. And I still need to do a pretty stringent review of that code before I'm going to put it out there. Before I'm going to be, collecting sensitive customer information or their credit card or anything like that, I certainly wouldn't want to go that deep before, really diving into what's being created.
Okay, so in other words, the AI facility just does a little bit of the heavy lifting, but then you still need to, at the end of it, do your due diligence, take it through, the rigors of ensuring that users' information, personal identity information will not be compromised.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just like any other piece of software. We just have, the AI mechanisms just give us a broader view of what's going on within the system. It's able to take known patterns and create those just much more quickly. So it does speed us up, but we still need to do that final 20% of review and security oversight just to make sure that we're putting something out there that is safe for our customers.
All right, so I'm glad you hit on that in terms of we're talking about the safety, and you also alluded to earlier about, in the icebreaker question, pretty much talking about having a minimum viable product out rather than waiting on something that's perfect. But then how can, developers or, anybody who is interested in leading in the tech space improve developer efficiency without compromising quality?
It's really important for us to, think about what are the things that speed up a developer and what are the things that really slow down a developer. For example, things that really slow down a developer are the communication. So let's say I'm working with someone, in another state or a completely different time zone. That creates new communication challenges that we need to overcome. If I'm working with a developer that doesn't just really understand what it is that we're building and why we're building it, they're going to make different decisions based on what they're assuming is important. And if we're not in line and really have clarity around what we're building, then we tend to waste a lot of time and effort and resources because we're going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. And so intrinsic in that is that there's kind of telling me that there's some kind of mentorship that could, alleviate some challenges in the future. What role does mentorship play in building high performing tech teams?
Mentorship is very critical. And what I've found in a lot of teams that I work with is that it's not really something that's kind of thought of or part of the dynamic or the culture of the team. And it's not something that we want to have like, okay, well, we're going to schedule a mentorship session in the future, in next week. It has to become part of the culture of the team. And it's not just a top down, a senior working with a junior. Juniors can mentor seniors just as well. They bring different perspectives and views. And so there's a real opportunity for everyone on the team to have that cohesiveness where everyone is learning and mentoring together. And from a leadership perspective, it's my job and my responsibility to really foster that, to create an environment where folks can collaborate, can communicate, across the different, roles that they may have so that they are able to, really all learn and grow. And when we have that tight culture that promotes that growth, then I found that's where we really get the high performing teams. But if we don't have that, we're really not going to get that high performing team that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. In terms of AI, and we know it's hot on everybody's lips right now, and it's not like AI just came about yesterday, last week, 5 years ago, even, right? AI has been around for so long. But in terms of the discussion now surrounding AI, how do you see it impacting software development in the next 5 years, for example?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you can listen to either side of the fence on that. A lot of folks are really fearful because the job that I was able to do and get paid really, really well for as a junior has been completely wiped out with some of the AI tools. If I can do the same thing for a $20 subscription, why wouldn't I? And so that's certainly, going to impact a lot of roles. But I think counter to that, I'm also seeing where a developer who is really embracing the fact that, hey, AI is here to stay and it's only getting better. Like today is the worst day of AI, right? Tomorrow will continue to improve. If a developer recognizes that and is willing to step in to that uncomfortable area, they can really grow and get themselves farther ahead than their colleagues and really take their efficiency and just, 5 and 10x what they're able to accomplish. And they can get rid of a lot of the mundane tasks that none of us enjoy doing. And a lot of the things, honestly, that we avoid doing because we don't enjoy them, because they just take time, because we don't really see the benefit. That's where AI can really fill in improving the software that we're creating. So I think if we're willing to embrace it, it can really accelerate our career growth. But I think it's going to be a very interesting time over the next few years for sure.
I like that. Today is the worst day of AI. And when you think about it, when years ago when it was horse and buggy, that was a thing, the mode of transportation, and then the invention of the car, and here we are, going to the moon, right? To space, going to space, booking vacation in space. It's amazing. So we can understand that concept that today is really the worst day of AI. Let's pause here and go into the community connection segment. And this is where sometimes the community shares some feedback, whether it's a review or whatever it is. And there are so many reviews I have to share that we have received lately. But I have been so inclined to share with you and just provide an avenue for you or a community to connect with me. And there are two opportunities that are coming later this year. And one is, guess what? You're able now to sharpen your leadership edge. So I'm hosting LeaderCast Kingston again in October. And that's our premier leadership conference that is going to be hosted under the auspices of Grace to Grow Mentorship and Training, which is our social enterprise. And of course, this conference is for the and training aspect of the business. So you will be, if you know, go on leadercast.com and you will see all the speakers that will be available at that conference that we'll have in Jamaica. So we're bringing together world-class speakers and change makers. Then, of course, in November, as you've been hearing, we're going to set sail, yes, man, on the Lead Her Ship cruise aboard Royal Caribbean's Liberty of the Seas, where leadership and leisure will meet amidst the beauty of the Bahamas. So just imagine workshops at sunrise, networking under the stars, and the energy of ambitious professionals like yourself. So I am so pumped about this one. In October, there's live in-person LeaderCast, and then in November, that's the cruise happening. So for details, you may send a WhatsApp at 876-849-2571 or email Heneka Watkis-Porter at henekawatkisporter.com. And as always, let us know your feedback or questions. Your voice really, really helped to shape this community. So that's our community connection segment. I come back now to this interesting conversation that I've been having with Brian Childress around mastering technology leadership from security to efficiency. And at this point in the conversation, I'm going to ask you to give me a nice summary, Brian, on mastering technology leadership.
I think from a leadership perspective, it's really important for us to develop a strategy and build clarity around that particular strategy. The more clear we are as leaders, the more clarity we can bring into our teams, and then we can really push and deliver much higher value for our customers. But if we aren't clear, we're just kind of taking guesses and seeing what works and then hoping. And hope isn't a strategy at the end of the day.
Hope isn't a strategy, and that relates to technology. It relates to all aspects of business. So I'd love you to share a little bit about your business, Brian, and how might our community get in touch with you? What is it you do for your clients? And yeah, just tell us some things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a consultancy called Summit Labs, and I provide fractional CTO work, so fractional Chief Technology Officer, and I also do technical advising for my clients. So typically what that looks like is if a customer or a client has built out a piece of software, their MVP, they've gotten it out there and are, have paying customers, and they're looking to scale. That's where I typically come in and help them get to that next level of scale and growth. And for me, I look at scale in three ways. One is our ability to add more users to the platform, which, more users, more revenue, it all benefits. The other ways that I look at scaling are being able to add more features to the platform, more integrations. Those are really, really important for us. And then finally, we scale just how can I add more developers to my team that can create more features that then can support more users. Yeah, I provide one-on-one coaching, mentorship for various teams, working directly with folks in the C-suite that are driving and building really valuable business-to-business software.
Excellent. So how might our community of peak performers get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is through LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. I would encourage everyone to find me on there and reach out. I'd love to chat.
All right. And you did share with me pre-interviews that you have a giveaway. I want you to share that 30-minute technical advisory session of 250 value or your due diligence playbook. So share a little bit about that, because that I'm sure will get our listeners excited.
Yeah, so the first is a technical advisory session. Typically, I charge at least $250 for a 30-minute session, and that's an opportunity to bring your business challenge, your technical challenge to me, and we kind of talk through it and make sure that the direction that you're heading is the right direction. I worked with a founder a couple days ago, and over the course of about a 5-minute conversation, we were able to avoid several $100,000 of technical mistakes that the founder was getting ready to make just because I asked a few key questions. And that's the same thing I can bring in a technical advisory session. If that's not interesting for you, I do also offer a technical due diligence playbook. This is what I bring into every organization that I work with so that I can evaluate what is the health of their technology and help to develop a strategy for what are the next steps for that particular business. So that's also a really valuable piece of information that I'm sharing with your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your generosity, Brian. And that's Brian Childress. We've been having an insightful conversation, eye-opening. I'll tell you what stand out for me at the end of this podcast episode. But let me pause right here to do our trending now. Cybercrime is expected to cost businesses over $10 trillion annually in 2025, making secure systems more critical than ever. So at the same time, companies that prioritize developer efficiency see a 30% faster time to market, giving them a significant competitive edge. And that's what trending now. so much insights that we've got on this episode from Brian Childress. And I just want to say thank you so much again for sharing that expertise with us. And for listeners who want to dive deeper into tech leadership or application security best practices, please connect with Brian. You heard him share earlier is where you may find him. And if this episode inspired you, then I ask you, please subscribe to the Entrepreneurial You, leave a rate and review. You can go to Apple Podcast or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast, and share this episode with someone who lives in the tech space or wants to improve their system, or just anyone who is an entrepreneur or business owner. Share that with them. And here is what I want you to affirm with me today. I am a visionary technology leader who creates secure and efficient solutions. I am a visionary technology leader who creates secure and efficient solutions. Do take care. Thanks so much to our sponsors, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and to, of course, Heneka Watkis-Porter.com. My main takeaway, I said I wanted to tell you today, that point that Brian made, that today is the worst day of AI. Can you believe it? It's only going to get better. And when you hear that, look how far we've advanced, yeah? And just to conceptualize it that way, it tells us how much further we have to go. So you ain't seen nothing yet, baby. More to come. All right, that's it, folks. See you next time. Take care.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.